your relationship with your team and your business, and your relationship with finances. And I'm super excited today to announce one of my closest friends and people on the planet, none other than Adora Evans from the Dining Diva Network, as one of the Dining Diva Network founders, Dining Diva TV Network. They're on a ton of different cable shows. I actually had the honor of coming out to Dallas summer before last and filming an episode with you guys. She's also part of the Think and Grow Rich Foundation. She's an absolute, amazing human being, especially when it comes to connections. Adora, what's up, sis?
Good to see you. Good to see you. And I love that intro because there isn't anyone that I'd be more grateful to have a friendship with. You just have the best heart. You stand for people and community in such a powerful way. And it's very nourishing.
Uh,
It's very
I,
nourishing to get to be your friend. So
appreciate
thank
it, girl.
you.
When I first met you a few years ago, we met actually through a good friend of mine, Brent Gove, at Dennis Waitley. Dennis did a small mastermind. I think there's like 20 of us there, 15, 20 of us, not very many. And it was absolutely an unbelievable 3 days to be able to get to spend with Dennis. Take a minute and tell our audience a little more about who Adora is.
Yeah, so I am just like many people came into this world loving people, right? There are different personality types. So I remember my mom and dad saying that they were scared I was going to get kidnapped because I would run up to strangers and say, I love you. And I'm just a grown up version of that. And
That's
through
great.
being around great people, and great authors like the author of Tipping Point, Malcolm Gladwell, who started talking about us connectors
Mhm.
being a hub in humanity. I started learning to monetize connection, started learning the importance of connection, and have spent a lot of years creating strategic alliances
Mhm.
between very high level people, mostly in the self development space, because that's my heart. And because I feel like I've been raised by all these self development people like you, like me, that took their
Yeah.
time to put books together, give their life's work and wisdom, whether it was Dennis Waitley or working with the Napoleon Hill Foundation, or like when we got together with Les
Mhm.
Brown.
Mhm.
But yeah, so over the years, my career has had titles like producer, because what are producers? They're people who bring the resources, the talent, the money, the connections, whether it's in media, together. And so there are a lot of different words for connectors: real estate agents, brokers, Um,
Mhm.
and so I would say the hub of what I do is that same little girl loving people, but connecting, and who I've learned over time to use that skill set or that talent that God's given me, to create an impact and therefore an income. And that's something that's a moving target in our world, right? With AI and all these different things, we're learning
Mhm.
about, okay, where do we go next? And just like you are a very talented connector, I'm a person that believes that it's always starts with who am I, who's God calling me to be, and then the who's in our life are going to be how we figure out what's next, whether it's who you're going to marry, who's going to marry you. Ken, little nod to your recent yes, hello. Hello, everybody. Yeah, but whether it's personally, professionally, it's always going to come down to who. We are not meant to do
Mhm.
things alone.
Mhm.
And if you want to up level your life in any area, it's going to come down to a connection. And
Yeah,
so,
it's always relationships. I'm actually working on my new book. I'd love to talk about this a little bit with you. Working on my new book, 14 Frequencies of Proximity. And we took our core five framework, which we teach here: faith, health, relationship, business, and finances. Obviously, at Create conference, we'll talk about it a little bit, but Create and all of our live events, we start with faith and we work our way through all those core five framework areas. And as I was doing this book, I realized that that core five framework really is, it's also a framework for the five most important relationships that you have: your relationship with Jesus, your relationship health journey, your relationship with yourself,
mhm.
just relationships, which of relationships with others, your spouse, your children, your family, your friends, all of those things, community. your business, your relationship with your team, and then finances, your relationship with money. How do you handle money? And so on this podcast, we literally just rebranded this over the past month or two to Proximity with Ken Joslin. And proximity is really cool. As we were studying I've used this term proximity as a cheat code for years. And as we found out during the research for this book, there's a thing called a proxy code. So if you've ever used a key fob to open a door or a key card to open a door, there's what's called a 14-bit proxy code. So it's 14 frequencies that are in that key fob or that card that when they match the card reader or the key fob reader, it opens the door. You get to go into the next level of your life, the next room, if you will. And that's the same thing with relationships. Tell me, at what point did you have that aha moment and go, holy cow, relationships really are the key, because they are the key to everything. When did that happen for you? Was it a one-time thing, or did it happen over a period of time?
Yeah, it's over a period of time, but the first one to really point it out to me, and this story comes back, but I was living in a boarded up home with no electricity, 18 years old, town scandal, small town, and I instead of investing in my electricity, I invested in an Herbalife distributor kit. I'm not in Herbalife anymore, but shout out to everyone. And I met Jim Rohn on a Walkman radio, a cassette tape.
Wow.
And he sold me on this idea that we could change our lives just by setting our sail in a new direction. He said, we're in this metaphorical sailboat headed to a destination. You're going to arrive. If you want to know where you're headed, look at your past choices, your family. And I'm like, oh no, nothing's looking good. Nothing's looking good. And I'm literally in a boarded up home with no sheetrock, dim lights, cluttered environment, thinking I screwed everything up with God, with everybody at this point. And so it's not looking good. But then he said, if you want to just set your sail in a new direction, it may take you longer, but you will eventually arrive. That was the first who I met. But then he sold me on the way you set your sail in a new direction is you find mentors. And I was like, how am I going to find any mentor right now? But then he said, the library is full of them. And it's full of people that exactly.
Hang on just a minute. Hang on. I want you to say that again, guys.
Yeah.
Some people are like, Ken, I don't have the relationships you have. Adora, I don't have the relationships that you have. And I have amazing relationships. I literally have a text thread with 5 men that in any area of my life I need to hit, I can shoot that text to that group and I know I'm going to get an answer. But what you just said is magic. Can you say that again?
Yeah, is that the library is full of them.
It's powerful.
That you have people that have taken their life's best work and taken the time to put it in a book because they want to instill this wisdom, like what you're doing with your book right now. So I'm going to catch those again. So 85 books that year I read, and I listened to so many audio programs, and I took in and applied things that I learned, and I saw my communication start to shift. I had a one-time check of $8,000 and some change, which I'd never seen that much money in one place in my life at that time. And so I felt like it was all going to be like, yeah, and it was not. It was more like boom, 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 boom. The stock market on the rise is what I call it. But that was the first time I started to really value at least the relationships there. And then I went through another period of time where I was so busy working on myself, and all my core relationships were people I was pouring into, right? Not people that were, because I thought I needed to go get myself together, and I was so busy trying to become this attractive character. But the thing is, as soon as you land one place, you see the next place. And that either means, okay, even if you got all the money you wanted to get, you see the place of I want more meaningful relationships, or I wish I had a better body, or I want to feel God in my life more, right? There's always, you land at one place, you see the next place. So not only are you never there, but actually what'll get you there faster is being with people because of that transference. And I have a little example, Ken, so you know this, but I have an adopted dog who's from the shelter, and I used to say, must have kangaroo in his DNA because that dog is a jumping, could be in the circus, hunting, herding. He was meant for more than, now we have a yard, but the townhome that I had in the little yard when I first got him. So I quickly learned this dog needs a bigger yard and he needs a companion. And so I got him, we went and got a mini schnauzer as a little puppy, little tiny puppy. But because she grew up with him, do you know she is probably one of the highest jumping mini
I,
schnauzers
I,
I have ever seen? Because what? Because proximity and behavior
yeah,
and
yeah,
being in an environment has trained her and elevated her to behave like like a circus dog. I don't know if they're really meant to be circus dogs, but we're the same. And
yeah.
you see it when you have kids. We see it in our own lives, but you just watch your kid, and especially middle school, high school, they start talking a certain way. They start dressing a certain way. And it
Right.
is all a reflection of who they're surrounding themselves with. And we as adults are exactly the same. You get in a room with the right people, stuff that used to feel like Chinese, like you were
Mhm.
just looking at your ads, your ROI, your
Yeah.
go high level. All that didn't happen overnight. You got in a room with people who
Yeah.
showed you this is what it takes to create
Yep.
at the
Yep.
highest level. And now you've got a language that you didn't have before. The same thing that happens, whether it's a financial language, a spiritual language, a health and wellness language, like you introduced me to Josh Porter. Now my second wind of evening, energy is back because I'm a client
Yeah.
of Josh's, right? But how did that happen? I got in a room with you. I went to an event. I heard Josh. I heard what Josh was doing for you. I got a cheat code. I got a relationship shortcut. And that only happens when you're actually in relationship with. And so another big milestone for me was realizing that I had these core relationships that I wasn't making time for because I felt too busy. I felt like I had to go
Yeah.
get my stuff together, head down in the cave, get going. But really, um, until I made space and started prioritizing when am I making time for these people, whether I'm in their mastermind, going to lunch with them, going on vacation with them, when am I making time for them? And when I started making more time for them, then the rest of my life naturally elevated and much faster and with much more velocity. And it's counterintuitive at first
Yes,
because
it
you think
is.
work
Yes, it is.
harder. I got to do better. I got to work
Yeah.
on me. But it is the way.
What do you, let me ask you a question. Like in that, I love that because that's massive. When in my planner I created, there's a quote on the bottom right hand corner that says, get in rooms with people who think bigger than you. When was the first time? Was it a Jim Rohn cassette? Was it a live event? Was it a one-on-one? When you heard somebody and you went, because I love what you said. You said not only did I listen, but I applied it. I took action. I executed on the information that I had and understood it's just about me becoming 1% better today. But give our audience an idea of a relationship or a moment where you got some information, applied that to your life, and the transformation that it helped you experience.
Well, I mean, again, I'm going to start with a book because I went into a lot of rooms and I applied massively ignorance on fire, sometimes too many things at one time, right? But it was still better than no thing at one time because that little 1% made a difference. So whether it was, meeting the woman who sold me the Herbalife kit and following what she said to go share a story and create a business check, or it was um, working with. I'll give you. I remember Dennis right before Dennis came into my life. There was someone that I watched go from zero to a very successful construction support company in Dallas. And it was at the same time that I was praying for mentors, and I didn't have a lot of access to real life mentors, but I was reading a lot of books and things. And so I prayed, you know, I wanted to interview successful people like Napoleon
Mhm.
Hill did. And I thought it worked out for him, but I wanted that and I wanted to be paid for it, even though he wasn't paid. So no one knew that I was saying that, but
Mhm.
there was a desperate prayer in my heart for change. It was desperate at that time. I mean, I'm talking 23. I'm feeling like, I don't know, sometimes you feel like you're
Yeah.
paddling just to stay, above water. And I also felt really alone at that time,
Yeah.
right? It's a good
Yeah.
metaphor. You know what I'm
Yeah.
talking about. And I was really just like a desperate prayer in that moment. And while today I try not to have a lot of desperate prayers, I try to have declarative prayers. I was at a desperate prayer there. And so I prayed this and affirmed it out loud after I read Think and Grow Rich. And then this person called me and said, he didn't know what I was praying, didn't even know, and said, I have a job that gave me a great skill set. They're hiring right now. I can get you the interview. You're going to have to pass all the psychology tests, but I really think it would be great for you. And I was just, yes, I saw
Yeah.
him do this, so that I didn't really care. It was like a lifeline,
Yeah.
give me a lifeline. So I went and got an Ann Taylor suit, tried to put my makeup on to look older and mature and very like professional. And I passed the psychology test. And the job ended up being sitting in a cubicle calling CEOs that were revenuing 10 million or more all day. And the sales process or the enrollment process was an interview. And so that job was for Pat Summerall Productions
Mm.
and I became a producer for Pat Summerall Productions on the Discovery Channel. My
Mhm.
name ran in the credits. So here I am. What was a big deal because here I am, I was working in a nightclub just months before
Mhm.
and had this desperate prayer, had one person that threw me a little lifeline. I took action on it, no questions asked. I didn't even know that the job was the exact thing I was praying for.
How much doubt did you have in that process? Like how many times did you go, is this real? God, is this really you? Is this really what I'm supposed to do? Do I have what it takes to do this? Can I make this happen? Like how much of that happened in your mind in this process? Even though you took action and you executed on what God put in front of you, how much of that stuff still went on in your mind?
It definitely came at some point, but I want to tell you, like, there was such a brokenness before
Mm.
that every moment, it may make me a little teary, but every moment felt like this is God's grace. Like, I can't
Mm.
believe this is
Mm.
happening. And and I was just more like I will be coachable. Even in there, I looked for who is the top mentor that because we could choose our senior producer. And I would go hunt that person down and ask them, help me, mentor me. I knocked every day, and that guy was burnt out because the turnover rate was really high there. But I knocked every day, tell me what to do. And whatever, when he finally gave me something to do, I did it. But there now I mean when I think back to that, I think more of like I can't believe in faith and grace and coachability and like believing more in everybody else's ability. And if I just copy exact, that was in the day where they said if your mentor eats Wheaties, you eat Wheaties. If your mentor wears blue socks. So I was in that,
Yeah.
but now let me say at that time I also rode a bus to work every day. And I
Mhm.
would get there an hour early. And the whole time I would have to visualize, myself as a producer for Pat Summerall and imagining like not the girl who was living in the apartment, working in the club a few, months
Yeah.
before. And it took that
Mhm.
because I didn't wake up feeling confident and God's grace is all over this. That was my way of getting ahead of it. and kind of setting a tone and grabbing my mind and like getting into an emotional state. And if I never got there late, because if I got there late, I would not show up to perform,
Mm,
because
mm,
the identity that was full of doubt, would have been the one. I had to really like condition my mind for success. And then I would bring out
What were
all.
some of the things? Let me ask you this: what were some of the things you did to condition your mind? Like, what were some of the things when you had those? Because I mean, we're 6 years into building this. We'll have 1,000 to 1,200 people at Create this year. I still have moments like that almost every day, where I'm
Yeah.
like, dude, you don't have what it takes to do this. Like
Yeah.
God's called God. God wants this thing to be way bigger than what you can do. Like, what are some of the things you do or did and then still do today, Adora,
Yeah. Well,
to help battle those that self negative talk and oh, you can't, you ain't not enough, you're not skilled enough, you're not gifted enough. How do you battle that now?
I'm so glad that you're bringing that up, because it's so true. It's not something that just goes away, especially when you're playing big games and when there's uncertainty and there's the unknown, right?
Oh,
It's giving me
wow.
chills. Because I know you're walking through it and you wake up with it. Sometimes it wakes you
Yeah.
up and you're like, you wake up a certain way. And then
Mhm.
I've got to go I grab my coffee and start saying my prayers. And if it's really shaky, I start declaring, maybe even praying in tongues for me, because then I don't have to rely on my mind. And then right into the gym, even before my, prayer, like serious prayer time. And that's for me because that adrenaline is moving and I need to get into activity. And now my behavior
Mm,
is reminding me I'm strong, I'm in movement, I'm in
mm,
action. But while I'm at that gym, I'm listening to either worship or
yeah.
prayers that I've already recorded, or some book that is like, and by the time that workout is done, I'm already in a better state to an extent, because I'm not just frozen with these, doubts and the counsel, the attack that's half self-inflicted. And then some would say it's a spiritual warfare, some
Mhm,
would say
mhm,
it's, what the enemy, and whether the enemy has already planted those seeds and just has you on autopilot,
mhm,
or whether it's a fresh thing. I tend to not focus so much on
mhm,
that and put my eyes on God and like,
mhm,
where are you taking me? Um, but it's that, and then it's action. You
mhm,
need to get like, and I know you know this too, already having things scheduled
mhm.
has pulled me out before, because maybe sometimes I get through all of that and I'm still like, one thought can grab your stomach feels like it's going to
Yeah,
drop, like it's
yeah,
dropped, and
yeah.
you're trying to, and so then maybe I'm using another tool of EFT tapping,
Yeah.
right? But having things scheduled, whether it's an enrollment call, whether it's a call with team where you're looking at your numbers, whether it's something that moves that needle forward,
Mhm,
in order to like it, because now you're in action and you've got people around you and you're moving. And so momentum again, um, is on the other side. And every now and then I have my wild cards like you can, which are my best friends that'll
yeah,
talk me,
yeah.
remind me
We,
like, you
we,
are.
we all need those things. I mean, I remember this past summer, I had $81,000 in two contracts walk out the door in about a 24-hour period. And I text Troy Hoffman. It was Sunday night at like 9:30, and I'm laying in bed sweating, going, holy cow, what am I going to do? How am I? And I literally text Troy. I said, hey, dude, not complaining, but just wanted you to know this happened. I lost $81,000 in contracts over the past like 24 to 36 hours. And about, no, I don't know, 2 minutes later, a text comes back from Troy and goes, okay, period. Where are you going to make that $81,000 up at? Question mark. Was just no emotion, just, okay, we're going to go make it back up. And I was like, okay, yeah, he's right. I texted back, said, thanks, bro. Rolled over and went to sleep. Got up the next morning. I want to go back to something you said just a
But
minute because I
wait,
think,
before you do, I want to say something
yeah.
to that, because that right there is the power of the relationships. Because
Oh,
where you could have sent that text to someone else and they would have been crying, afraid, worried, went with you to devastation.
this is where I was going to go with this question
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
how do you know? Because I mean, I now I know Like I've gotten different men that I can go to for certain things that I know if something like that happens, I know Troy is super even keel. Never gets too excited, never gets too down. He's seen it all, he's experienced it all. So if I have an issue, I can run it by him. I'm going to get an answer that is laced and covered with wisdom, which is exactly what I got. But how do you determine who the right people are in your life? Like the people that you're close to. How do you determine that?
Yeah, that's so good. Well, there's one right there, especially for high pressure scenarios, someone that is not, that definitely has experience, but you see, even when they show up in life, they're not so
Right.
dramatic when something happens that the whole world is falling, and they're not so, they are steady. Uh, and now I'm going to take this to something personal and back to what you're saying. I when I'm going through things, Ken, there are very like hard things. There are very few people that I will tell that I'm going through and ask for prayer,
Mhm.
because I feel even who prays for me, if they're praying out of fear and scarcity and desperation, and I don't want that energy out there, right? So I have one friend in particular that I can tell everything and anything because she holds it high. So
Mhm.
even like I remember once one of my dogs could let herself out. This was before Champ and Lulu. She could let herself out the front door until I figured out a way and just be roaming the neighborhood. And I got a call, and I was about, the first time I got a call, I was about an hour away, and I was nervous for her. But I called my friend, Mesa, who I knew when she would pray, seeing me smiling, already petting my dog inside of the house, seeing it done, not flipping out like, oh my gosh, steady. So when I'm all over, she's steady and can hold a vision of
Mhm.
it is well, like it's all going to work out, right? And so, same thing, whether you're talking to someone about your relationship, who is going to start bashing your partner and start, and who's going to hold them high and hold you high and give grace and mercy to both sides, and the relationship to those both parties is not impacted.
They're
And
gonna
that's
they're
not
gonna
everybody.
they're gonna speak truth
Yeah.
to you and the truth that you actually need to be able to move forward because they care about you and they care about you becoming the best version of yourself.
That's right.
You mentioned something else just a minute ago. I want to touch on this. You said you have something on your calendar. One of the things I talk about is if you need an alarm clock to get out of bed, your goals aren't big enough. And not only that, but like you need something that drives you out of bed every day. But you also need like before I go to bed at night, my day the next day is planned. I already know exactly what I'm doing. Every minute's accounted for. Like when I get up in the morning, my gym clothes are laid out in my chair. My pre-workouts mixed and in the refrigerator. My peptides are ready for me to take my little shots, and my supplements are sitting on. Everything's ready to go. So when I
Love
wake up in the morning, it's not a wonder if I feel like going to the gym today.
Yeah.
It's already
Yeah.
done. I settled it before I went to bed the night before. Talk about the importance of pre-planning. Talk about the importance of really stewarding because time's the only thing we can't earn or get back.
Oh, it's so good. So true. And I think people are designed differently too. Like, I want to speak
Mhm.
male, female, different brains. Like, for me, some men that I know before they go to bed, it's one of the last things they do is look at their schedule. Do you do it right before you go to bed,
Oh
Ken?
yeah. Oh yeah. Every
Okay.
time. I'm
So they
literally
do
laying there and
it,
I'm going,
right?
okay, what do I have? It's in the last hour to 2 hours before I go to bed. I look and go,
Okay.
what do I have tomorrow? I look and then literally I take my planner and I finish filling it out for what I have the next day.
Okay. So see, that calms you, it anchors you, it gets you ready for the day. Guess what that does to me? If I look at my schedule 1 hour to 2 hours before I go to bed, it opens all my energy and resources, and I'm
Wow.
already on that day, and it actually will make to where I can't sleep. I feel anxious. And so knowing how you're designed and even knowing how your partner's designed, because a husband may or a partner may think he's being so kind to the woman and like, hey, honey, and supporting because that's what supports him. But if it does the opposite to her, that's going to ring her nervous system,
Good,
right? So
good. It's really good.
so for
Really
me
good.
personally, I do that when I'm wrapping up my day for the day before I'm moving into mom mode. And I may do a quick look, again before I'm really winding down, but I definitely don't look at that stuff last part of the day.
Mhm.
But I've already got it prepared. I also do blocks. I don't know if you do blocks
Yep,
where
100%.
yeah, like you have creation days, days that you're doing a bunch of
Like I do
meetings or
podcasts
projects.
Thursday and
Mhm.
Friday from 1 to 4. Like that,
Okay.
those are my 3 hours on those 2 days where I
Yeah.
record my podcast or I have guests on Thursday and Friday from 1 to 4. And that's the only times I do those specific things.
Yeah, I love that. So the person who brought it to my attention the most was Ben Hardy
Mhm.
and Dan Sullivan,
Mhm.
and they were talking about the creator's schedule. And
Mm.
that when you think of a creator, that like an artist or an athlete, they have certain days they need to be peak and
Mhm.
ready to
Mhm. It's
perform,
good.
stage ready, game ready. And then there are days that they're preparing, they're recovering, they're analyzing
Mhm.
former games. And so if we start to design our schedules as creators, those who are, creating, and we're all designed as
Mhm.
creators, and I know you draw a lot of entrepreneurs, then we can start to block even, okay, these are my days that are, analyzing, strategizing, going, and now that's that
Mhm.
day. And this is my peak day.
Mhm.
This is where I'm performing. I'm going to be on. I'm going to be holding energy. I'm doing, and so for everybody, it's a little different, but it's been
Yeah.
very helpful for me to block things like that, when I need to create something or think strategically, that those aren't the same days that I'm breaking it up with meetings all day, right?
Mm.
And I learned from you. I love your calendar when you were on one of our things. I
Mhm.
love your making green the revenue.
Mhm. Yeah, I have four color codes: blue, green, yellow, red. Blue is my personal time. So when I'm up in the morning doing my quiet time, gym, podcast, therapy with my therapist, anything that's leadership development for me or growing me is blue. Green is revenue. It's where I'm going after money. Yellow is where I work on my business, not in my business.
Hmm.
And there should be an hour to an hour and a half almost every day of yellow time. Like
Hmm.
you've got to be creating and inventing the future. Green, yellow, red. Red is where I spend time with people that I love. And that's
Yeah.
one of the first things that goes on my calendar. Like
And
it's
how
one
do
of
you
the
break
first things.
those up? So
Yep.
let's talk about green, because I remember that was very valuable. And you've got a lot of seasoned entrepreneurs, but as you start getting momentum,
Mhm.
there are times when, we get more into strategy or the latest marketing or shining, and before you know it, your green focus is down or your yellow focus is down,
Yeah.
right? And so it was a
Yeah.
game changer going, oh
Yeah.
yeah, I need to, when
Yep.
everybody wants me on meetings
Yep.
and hosting things, how
Yep.
many of these are green?
Right.
And do I have enough green on the, on my
Well, I mean,
schedule?
revenue, your cash flow is the lifeblood of every business. And people don't understand like your cash flow when you're in a startup, we're almost 6 years old. When you're still startup, I mean,
Congrats.
when you're in a startup and we're 7 figures plus
Mhm.
in revenue, when you're in a startup, it's like people think when you tell people, oh, we did 1.18 million last year, like, oh my God, yeah, but you have no idea what my expenses are. Like as they grow, so you have to always be on the lookout. Okay, what's our blood pressure? Which is our revenue? Like what's our cash flow? Because that cash flow drops, man, the whole thing stops. You have to have a good idea, especially like for Create this year. Man, we have a dashboard: general admission tickets, executive tickets, CEO tickets, how many we've sold, how many we have left to sell, how many days do we have, how many tickets do we have to move each day. You hopped on a Zoom call earlier, and I literally was on a phone call with my AI agent people and my Facebook marketing, my ads guys, asking questions about, hey, this ticket should have been on our Facebook Our spreadsheet showing me my ROI. This one didn't make it. Why didn't it? How come this isn't automated? And I'm asking questions to these guys so I can track those numbers well because I probably spent 300 grand on Facebook ads and marketing agencies. Everybody can, hey, we can do this for you. No, you can't. Everybody's promised me what they can do, and nobody, not one marketing. It is the black hole of doing what we do is those marketing agencies that say they can do. I just haven't had anybody really do it until I stepped in and said, I'm going to learn how to do this. And I got that. I got that from Alex Hormozy. He said, I'm going to learn how do my ads run. Instead of just trusting people, I want to learn. So you saw me deep diving in spreadsheets, Facebook Ads Manager, Go High Level, like all the stuff earlier with my team. I have an understanding of how that works because that revenue, that green time on my calendar is the most important thing on my calendar.
Yeah, it's huge. I mean, I'm even thinking about my time in network marketing. As soon as a leader starts growing, then they want to have you go do more trainings. And when you see the leader take their own foot off of
Yeah.
personally recruiting, or then the money will go down even though activity went up,
Yeah.
right? They're doing all this activity. So I love your color coding, and I also love that being as leaders, we've got to be tuned into that, and it can be easy to be moved away as you're scaling and growing because you're having all these conversations and all of this training and all, but someone has to be paying attention to that, and you are the main one accountable
Mhm.
to that, even though we want to it is ideally as you grow you have different team members that understand and drive it, but it's a big deal, and it's a lesson for visionary leaders. It's
It is.
for me
It
this
is. It is something else.
year. Yeah.
Last thing I want to ask you
Yeah.
at Create, in all of our masterminds, we do what we call 4610 moments, which come from Psalms 46:10. Be still and know that I am God. And the purpose I do this for is because I really believe that as faith based entrepreneurs, more than anything else, we need a clear vision from God. Talk to me, and what is being still for Adora Evans look like?
That's so good. That is so good. It's usually the mornings when no one I haven't checked my messages yet. No one is up yet. It's alone time. Or it is after a time of productivity, but I've made space for maybe it's a walk in nature or paddle boarding, or for me, dance, it sounds maybe odd to some people, but whenever I dance and move my body and really like like feel the music, then there's a space of clarity that comes after that's really still for me at different times. Worship is another place where it's after. For me, it's usually either already in a quiet time like the morning, or it's when I'm very physical, obviously, right? I said dance, paddleboarding, worship
Mhm.
is a lot of emoting, right? So
Yeah.
it's a time of movement and release of energy that then brings a quiet opening where I can hear and receive. And it's usually um, as much as I would love, and maybe Pastor Ken, calling back to Pastor Ken, as much as I would love to force my stillness, I will say there are times that I've sat and nothing is coming. It feels like nothing is coming. I'm just sitting and I hear the air conditioner, or I hear, and I'm trying to hear, and there's still a trying and a force that isn't really stillness in that. So the stillness for me, I do my best to create a life that creates openings for that, but it often feels like in these in between moments after that do require open space, which means I'm not listening to something, I'm not pushing something, I'm not writing something, I'm not, you know, um, it's in a space like my heart is clear now, or the noise is clear because
Mhm.
I've worshiped
Mhm.
or I've moved or and I've made space and I'm not immediately filling that space with activity or drive or declaration or you know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah, I had because for me, especially when I pastored, I'm in the you're always having to get ready for Sunday and a new message, a new 35, 40 minute message every week. I would go into my auditorium and I just turn the lights out. I have a couple of the LEDs on, but I'd go in, I'd crank some worship music up for a couple hours. And one of the things that my pastor and my mentor, Sean Lovejoy, told me, gosh, 15 years ago, was I would be like, I would take my phone and if I had an idea, I'd put it in my notes section of my phone. But then you see your email, then you see your text, then you see, and you're in trouble. And Sean said, this is exactly what he told me. He goes, pick up a connection card out of the back of one of the seats and a pen. And when you have an idea or thought, just pull it out of your pocket, write it down, put it back in your pocket, and move on. And
Mm-hmm.
just go on to whatever the thing is that you're praying for or trying to listen to. And it's a gift. It is a, let me say this, it's a learned gift to be able to be still, which is why, man, every create every year we do it all throughout the 2.5 days through our mastermind. We do it all throughout the 2.5 days at those that we do every quarter. We get together at a live event, whether it be 75 people up to 1,200. Because that being still part is so important, and
It's everything actually.
yeah, it should be the foundation of everything we do, which is why faith is the first of the core 5 areas, because
Yeah.
being still is the most important thing for us to do.
It really is because there are so many ways we can take action, but it's about that aligned for you, God spoken into
Yeah.
your life. I was thinking about something the other day and the way that men receive versus women, and
Mm.
male and female were made in the image of God, and we're that. So, what is as a female that reflection? And I was thinking about birth specifically, Ken, right? Like seed planting is one thing. You
Hmm.
plant it, when you're doing it, it's like all of that. It's very intentional. But birthing still happens in its own time,
Mm.
right? It's like there is a certain timeline and maybe a general timeline that we're, counting on. But when it happens, there's a mystery about it. There's an inkling about it. There's its own time. And when you force it ahead of its time, now we're talking cesareans and planned things, and that's more like,
Yeah.
but when it's in tune and aligned and it happens from within, it happens a little more mysteriously, it is led in a more intuitive way. And I think both pieces are part of that whole puzzle of how things happen, whether we're birthing an idea, something I love. Wayne Dyer used to say, anything inspired, the word is in spirit.
Mm.
So when you think
So
of a,
good.
a spirit being born into physical reality, it's a similar thing of something inspired. Create 7 years ago, 8 years ago was in spirit. And now it has been birthed through the seeds planted, the actions, all of that into physical reality. And some of the things that are birthed are still in a bit of that kind of mystery, right? It happens above and beyond what you expect in timing that's a little different than what you expect sometimes.
Isn't the timing almost always different than what we
Right.
expect, though?
Right. And I think stillness and receiving from God is similar, and being humans in this reality is like they're all the very intentional things that we do. And I call those, not everybody likes saying masculine or feminine, but
Right.
those are the more masculine reflections of, here's how we're going to do things. And then there's the feminine, the mystery, the, how they unfold, and that still small voice and the intuitive inklings and the unexpected connections. All of that to me is reflection of the feminine, and we need both.
No, I love that. It's so good, so good, so good. Thank you for our time today.
Thank you.
It's always amazing. Last thoughts for our audience. So let me ask you this:
Mhm.
Why somebody listening to this podcast? Why should they be at Create?
Oh my gosh, I would not miss it. I would not miss it. I can tell you that it was, just being in space with you. I remember being in right after I went through something hard and I went to one of your events. And I remember the men left the room for a part and the women, were in a room. And we could feel the men entering back into the room because of the way they entered and where you had just been, which was with Jake and Holy Spirit led, and the women had been leading in our own way. And I'm giving that example because the same thing happens in Create when something is given to God first and it is faith first and all the other key areas that we've been called to usher and take care of in our lives. There is an atmosphere that is charged in a different way. So it's charged in a different way. And then you bring to that room people like yourself, like Les Brown, like John Maxwell, like all the amazing leaders that you've brought together that have taking care of their lives and their communities at a very high level. So all the things we talked about unlocking and needing access to, and you put them in that environment that is charged first with the Holy Spirit being given free reign to do what God wants to do in the hearts and in the people. And then you bring that caliber of people and the people that are drawn there. It is an atmosphere that is meant for unleashing, unlocking, releasing miracles, connection. And it's so nurturing and also expansive, elevating. And it's January. Like, why would you miss that?
Yeah.
You want to be there.
It's going to be amazing. You'll be with us, Les Brown. Les will be with us. Horst Schulze, co-founder and former CEO of Ritz Carlton. Gary Brecka, of Jake and Nikki Hamilton. Troy Hoffman's going to be there. Eddie Wilson, my buddy that is oversees Aspire Business Conference, largest business conference in America. Eddie's going to be there. Michael McDonald, who does Invest Fest here in Atlanta and Earn Your Leisure. I mean, we have 31 speakers. It is an unbelievable lineup. A lot of main stage, a lot of breakouts. We literally for 2.5 days, depending on ticket level, we'll hit those core 5 areas of faith, health, relationship, business, and finances. And we really are on a mission, a mandate to see 1 million faith-based entrepreneurs have their lives transformed in the next 5 years. And I'm
I just
excited
want
I
to
can
give
do it with
one
you.
more, just one more, because just like you came to Dennis Waitley's mastermind that I was putting on with Brent Gove, right? You and I created a relationship there, a small
Yep.
event.
Yep.
And from that event, we've done many things together. I've
Yeah.
come to some of your things. You filmed in an episode with us. Now I'm getting to be with you here. We've helped each other through relational things. Our kids have spent time together and love each other. Completely unanticipated out of all the people that were there that this would become such a significant friendship, relationship that continues to give back wave on wave, right?
Yeah.
I went to your event. Josh Porter and I have each done business together back and forth now, right? We ended up doing an
That's right.
episode with
Yep.
him.
Yep.
I'm a client, have referred other people to him. When you get in a room like that, it's not just what's going to happen in your heart, that like you don't know what God has for you there until you get there, but you're going to leave with relationships that if you choose, even if it's 1 to 5, will absolutely alter the trajectory of your life and experiences and your business. So there are very few environments that bring all of that together, if any. And so definitely you want to get there, and it's a great way, January, to set up the whole year,
Yeah, it's gonna be
2026.
amazing. Well, girl, I love you.
Love you too.
I can't wait to see you. Just in like 5 weeks, we'll be
I
together. We'll
know.
be together in 5 weeks. I'm super excited about the conference. It's going to be a transformative weekend for everybody involved.
And thank you for all that you do and all that you put yourself through to bring this together.
People are like, "Hey, I want to do live events." I'm like, "No, you don't."
No,
Like,
you
like
don't.
literally, you have no idea
Yeah,
what it takes to be able to pull these things off in the
right.
time. I just know the transformation that I get to see every single time
Yeah,
we do a conference, and just the growth and the life change and the marriages and the businesses and the financial things and the relationships God restores and renews, is the health journeys of a ton of people. It's just absolutely transformative weekend, and I'm excited you're going to get to be a part of it with us this time.
me too. Awesome. All
I,
right.
I
Love
love you,
you.
girl. Guys, thank you so much for joining us for another episode of Proximity with Ken Joslin. Super excited. Listen, if you don't have a ticket to creategrowstackdrive.com/create, growstackdrive.com/create, you can use the code word Gary, short for Gary Brecka, and you'll get 50% off, because I believe the tickets go to full price when this episode is going to be dropped the first week of January. But look forward to seeing you then. See you next week on Proximity with Ken Joslin.